Hey Anime Stark fam. It's Anime Stark, and we're back with Broken Hero Part 4. Smash the like button, share with your anime buddies, and subscribe for more. Check out my second channel, Snuggy Dude, link in the description. Now, let's get into the drama of Broken Hero Part 4. Enjoy! Kirishima arrived with Fat Gum on a mission this week, to uncover the truth about his friend, his buddy, and basically his brother from another mother, Bakugo. Bakugo deserved at least an apology, and the redhead was determined to make it happen. Fat Gum, do you want the data from Bakugo's old class in school? Surprised, he spoke while munching on Tiakas. He knew Kirishima held Bakugo in high regard, and this sudden question put him on alert. Kirishima, yes. Midoriya doesn't want to apologize for what he did to Bakugo. He said he'd apologize if I found out the truth about Bakugo, and that's what I'm going to do, he declared with strength, fully aware that he would only find heroic acts and significant help for others. That was the real Bakugo, right? Fat Gum, He squinted his eyes and ate a bit. Not entirely sure why Kirishima wanted this, but he would provide it. At least it would show the redhead the reality of an idiotic hero. Alright, he smiled at his student and handed over the documents. I'll be completely honest with you, Red Riot. Since All Might introduced Dynamite as his successor, something didn't add up for me, so I investigated. Kirishima, thanks, Fat Gum. He took the files and left, unaware that Tetsu was listening behind the wall. Tetsu, how do you think he'll take it, Fat Gum sensei? The metallic boy entered with some hope that Kirishima would see the truth. Fat Gum, if he just looks at the files, his admiration will surely increase. He answered truthfully. The documents from the former teachers painted Bakugo as a saint, which clearly wasn't the case. If he decides to dig deeper, he'll probably go into shock. His great friend is an abuser who thought he was better than everyone else. How will he react? His admiration clashes with the truth, and only Kirishima-kun can resolve that. He replied, eating more. This dilemma worked up an appetite. Kirishima locked himself in for the first evening of the week to review the file, which only displayed Bakugo's impeccable grades, teachers' comments idolizing him for his quirk, and classmates highlighting how incredible it was to be with Bakugo Katsuki. Even a classmate admitted he was a well-oiled sexual machine. With that, Kirishima could sleep peacefully, knowing his friend was incredible and hadn't done anything wrong. But he knew presenting this to Midoriya wouldn't help. The freckled boy had made it clear to dig deeper, so Kirishima called the school Bakugo attended, and they confirmed it, or at least the person who answered did. Kirishima, I don't understand what Midoriya meant? He asked the heir, unsure if he should continue or leave things as they were. He continued with the other documents. But what? His surprise was immediate. Various reports from students spoke of the atrocities Bakugo committed, cases of severe injuries caused by the best hero of this generation. There were police reports on the excessive use of his explosive quirk, along with copies of the trials the Bakugo family attended. Panic took over Kirishima, who believed it was a lie, but no matter how hard he tried to justify what he saw, he found nothing. Kirishima, damage to the sternum and internal organs just because of a quirk that gives him insect-like eyes. That can't be Bakugo. He refused to believe, his admiration and judgment in a fierce battle. He tried to abuse me just because I rejected him. He read a report from one of his blonde friend's classmates. Kirishima, he left the child deaf by exploding his ear. Nervousness showed in the redhead. What the hell was going on? Kirishima, he has respiratory problems due to the smoke he inhaled. More and more of these reports emerged, some including photos, and he stopped doubting. Kirishima knew firsthand how the skin looked on a person affected by Bakugo's explosions, and it was clear that those kids in the photos had suffered from those explosions. Ignoring when Tamaki and Fat Gum came in to leave food, he continued investigating, no longer for an apology, but to know the truth. He was tempted to call his friend and hear his version of the various situations, but it wasn't necessary. On every page, printed was Bakugo's excuse, not entirely believable, more due to cynicism and madness than admiration. A person shouldn't be like this for such trivial things. Katsuki, he's just an extra who needed to be put in his place. The guy shouted proudly for what he did. Maybe his explosions left him deaf, and that's why he shouted? A small snippet of the absurdities of his friend. Right now, Kirishima felt a little guilty for considering them friends. Indirectly, he felt he participated in this. The child's mother has no control over him. It's clear that Bakugo Katsuki is in an ego-driven cloud, fueled by his surroundings, accommodating teachers, and classmates who look at him with awe without distinguishing between good or bad. A snippet from a psychologist who analyzed his explosive companion. If they took him to the psychologist and he didn't seem to have changed, what did that mean? With many questions, he felt the need to step out of the self-inflicted torment of truths one after another and went to the agency's kitchen. A coffee or something would help him relax. Kirishima, fat gum, he murmured not to wake anyone, seeing his teacher drinking coffee as if he were waiting. Fat gum, Kirishima, it's good that you're coming out of your room, he smiled kindly at the red-haired boy who stared into nothingness. Is something wrong? He asked, knowing what was going on. Kirishima, I don't understand, he began, confused. Finally, his admiration and friendship shattered like glass before the truth. Bakugo is a great hero and has saved many people. He claimed to have defeated all for one. He's a good guy. Fat gum, is he, Kirishima? Is someone who severely hurts a friend out of anger a good person? He said calmly. Kirishima no, he responded, guided more by his morals than his admiration. Fat gum, is a great hero someone who brings others down just for being different? He spoke a bit sternly. Kirishima, no, his logic agreed, but his admiration for his friend conflicted. Why did Bakugo do that? Mistreating classmates, hitting innocent people, abusing girls, he didn't know what to do now. Was Midoriya aware of this? Was that why he told him to gather information? Fat gum, Bakugo is Bakugo, and we don't know how his mind works or how he lives his life. We only know that at some point, he went too far, he spoke, now by the side of a defeated Kirishima. Kirishima, why was he admitted to UA despite everything? He's just a bully, he shouted in desperation, seeking answers but failing to find them. Fat gum, his previous teachers turned a blind eye to the abuses. They covered for him because they knew Bakugo would be a hero, and they supported him, he assured, as the redhead began to hyperventilate. Too much information in a short time. Kirishima, he didn't even know what to say. Words were insufficient in the face of these conflicting emotions, admiration and friendship against facts and guilt, honor and defeat, everything mixed in bad and horrible ways. Fat gum, breathe calmly, Kirishima, he told the redhead, who complied. Let the air fill your lungs and relax your thoughts, you're too overwhelmed by what you've discovered. Kirishima, did you know, Fat gum? The hero nodded with regret. Then why didn't you do anything? Fat gum, in the last few months, I've been supporting heroes with a matter related to Eri-chan, and it consumed a lot of time. Also, we don't know how people will react to this. After the war, I don't want to jeopardize the hope they have in us, he spoke, going for a glass of water for his student. Kirishima, what am I supposed to do now? Bakugo is an abuser, how am I supposed to look at him now? He pulled his hair in despair. Fat gum, whatever you do, Red Riot, it will be the right thing. It always has been, he assured, placing the glass of water in front of the redhead. What does your instinct and the evidence tell you? Kirishima he thought for a moment, looking at the glass, and reached a conclusion. I need to go see someone tomorrow, can I? The chubby hero nodded happily, trusting his student's judgment. Izuku woke up on the third day of his internship with drawn mustaches on his cheeks. Eri did the perfect job while her dad slept to play a prank, and the result was perfect in her eyes. The girl had quickly adapted to being with her father despite Izuku's lingering doubts. It's not that he didn't love the girl, but he still considered himself unfit for custody. Eri, good morning, Dad, she said, trying to hold back laughter at the green-haired guy looking like a strange cat. Izuku, good morning, Eri-chan. He said half asleep. Last night was difficult to sleep because of his delusions, and with Eri around, he couldn't afford to drink in front of her. Eri, are you feeling okay? She asked, concerned for her father. Izuku, perfectly. He spoke with closed eyes. Come on, let's have breakfast. He extended his hand, and the girl almost dragged him through the complex. The heroes in the halls couldn't help but suppress laughter at the freckled face. When they arrived, Mirio was having coffee with bread. It was simple, but the hero liked it. He didn't have much time, he had to resolve the issue with the television network supposedly linked to the Paranormal Liberation Front. Mirio paused when he saw Izuku seating Eri and going to the fridge to prepare pancakes. Mirio, Midoriya-kun, did you sleep well? He asked with humor and pride, having successfully imparted jokes to the little albino. Izuku, are you talking about what Eri-chan did to my face? He responded without looking at him, surprising both present. I'm perfectly fine, I just need a good bath, and then I'll go out patrolling. Mirio, I understand. I hope you don't encounter any problems when you go out. He said, getting up to leave. Izuku, alright, Eri-chan, do you want pancakes or pancakes? He asked without giving her a real choice. Eri, Both options seemed too tempting, so her response took a moment. I want pancakes, she said cheerfully. On the other side, Kirishima was heading for the missing part of his companion's story. Tetsu had revealed where his friend was, convinced by Kirishima's determination. That's why he found himself in front of the Night Eye Agency with determination and fear in his eyes. He sighed to quell his fears and entered. The receptionist, seeing the hero in his civilian form, frowned slightly. Izuku was well liked in the agency, and someone from Class 3A being here annoyed everyone. Nevertheless, her job was to be courteous, no matter how much she wanted to stab a fork into each Class 3A member's neck. Receptionist, welcome to the Night Eye Agency. How can I help you? She asked with a twitch in her eye. Kirishima, I'm looking for Midoriya Izuku, I need his opinion on a matter. He didn't beat around the bush, he wanted to get to the truth at all costs. Receptionist, I see, she said, somewhat stunned by such seriousness. She didn't expect that from Class A, as far as she knew, they were the class that goofed off the most. One moment, please. The reception became silent, and Kirishima tensed up. What he was doing was necessary, not just for an apology but for his own peace of mind, so he wouldn't go crazy with it. Mirio notified the freckled hero that Red Riot was waiting downstairs, looking very serious. Izuku didn't expect the Class A redhead to appear so soon. He thought he would take longer, blinded by his idolatry and connection with his blonde rival. He calmly descended with Eri in his arms because the girl refused to let go until her dad showed a real smile. Izuku, I didn't expect to see you so soon, Kirishima Eijiro. He spoke while sipping a cup of hot chocolate. Kirishima, Midoriya, he looked at the freckled guy with a kittenish face and the infant in his arms. This. Izuku, the little troublemaker in my arms. The girl pouted when called that. Tends to make jokes. Don't mind her. So, what does the Great Wall of the Three Greats need? Kirishima, I did what you said, Midoriya. He said, somewhat uncomfortable with Izuku's expression. I want to know. What happened with Bakugo? Izuku, so, the trash was finally exposed. He said mockingly. Eri-chan, the girl looked at her dad with a big smile. Go with Mirio for a moment while I sort this out, okay? The girl pouted and shook her head. Eri, not until you smile for real. She said seriously to her dad, who just raised an eyebrow. Fine. Reluctantly, she got out of her dad's arms and went down the stairs. Maybe a harmless prank on Mirio wouldn't hurt. Izuku, alright, since we're here, and I don't give a damn who knows about Bakugo, I'll start with the story. He sat on a couch in the lobby, and the redhead followed. Izuku had doubts about what to do with Eri-chan, but he wouldn't ask. He knew how protective Midoriya was with the girl. Questions about what happened? Simple, his quirk awakened, and his ego inflated. Kirishima, could you be more specific? What I saw leaves a bad taste, and I want the whole story to clear any doubts. He spoke tensely to the green-haired guy who looked at him neutrally. Izuku, Bakugo in his childhood was smart, I can assure you of that. He was the first in everything, and that's why many admired him, a kind of mini All Might who wanted to be better than the number one hero. He looked into the distance, recalling those good moments. We were friends and had each other's backs. Kirishima, and the change came with his quirk, right? He began to understand. Izuku, yes, he awakened his quirk, and I didn't. Still, things didn't change much. He just became a leader, thinking he was the most powerful just because of his strong quirk. We followed Bakugo until one afternoon in the forest. He sighed, trying to let go of the anger. We were passing by a log, and Bakugo fell. Obviously, he got hurt, and his childish pride made him say he was fine. I didn't believe him and went to help, like the idiot I am. He looked at Kirishima, who was paying close attention. Do you know what he did? Kirishima, accepted the help, and you both continued to be friends? He asked with a tone of fear, knowing what happened but refusing to say it. Izuku, he refused any help and thought I was treating him like a weak kid. From there, everything went downhill. He distanced himself from me day by day, and because of his friends and teachers encouraging him to be the best, he ended up hitting kids with weak quirks or none at all. At that time, I wasn't included. He thought of that afternoon and felt sorry for himself. One evening, I couldn't take it anymore and defended a kid, receiving Bakugo's attack and his lackeys. I became his favorite toy. He finished the story, letting the redhead absorb the information. Kirishima, and then? He asked eagerly. Izuku, the years passed, and we reached high school where the idolization went through the roof, treating him like a king, and me worse than a jester. This led to my self-esteem dropping too much, and I believed that my existence was a burden to others. He said calmly, surprising Kirishima. Nevertheless, I wanted to be a hero, someone who could save everyone with a smile. What do you think Bakugo thought? Kirishima, he thought for a moment, putting aside his friendship with the blonde. He didn't take it well, did he? Izuku, he belittled me more and more, trying to crush my dream just because the idea of a quirkless person becoming a hero disgusted him. Always mocking, always hitting where it hurt, not just physically but also psychologically, causing me to be afraid of people. Kirishima, is it true that he abused a classmate? He asked nervously, not knowing what to think of Bakugo anymore. Izuku, yes. I got involved in that too. Bakugo forcibly took her to the back and wanted to force something, but I held him back long enough for the girl to escape. I don't know how the teachers convinced her to say that I was the one who attacked her. Kirishima's surprise was evident. Even with all that, Bakugo became untouchable, and I became the scapegoat for everything bad. Do you still think he doesn't deserve what I did to him? He asked, amused to see the redhead hesitating. Kirishima, the redhead didn't know what to think anymore. This went too far. Izuku, let me sweeten this story a bit more. He said with his shit-eating grin. Bakugo encouraged suicide. Kirishima, eh? 4 simple words that shattered the last of his trust and friendship with the blonde. Kirishima stood still, watching as his academy mate stared at the ceiling as if it were the most interesting thing in the world. To say he believed him was an understatement. Midoriya had proven he didn't need to lie, and his calm aura and movement spoke nothing but certainty and truth. Kirishima stuttered, "Wah, what?" He couldn't believe what the freckled boy had just said. Midoriya replied, "It happened about a year before entering UA. I wanted to take the entrance exam, and he didn't like that. He wanted to be the first to enter UA, and he didn't appreciate me wanting to join. On the day we had to choose our schools, he made it clear what I needed to do to get in." He turned to the redhead, waiting for a response. "What do you think he said?" Kirishima, nervously, guessed, "Train until you become strong?" Midoriya, with a serious tone, responded, "Jump off a bridge and pray you have a quirk in your next life." It was still a bitter memory that made him want to punch Bakugo in the nose. "A fine hero, don't you think?" he added sarcastically. Kirishima was astonished, as was the receptionist who sipped her coffee in disbelief. Midoriya interrupted, "Don't apologize for him, and especially not for what happened. You were deceived by your beliefs. You went through the same thing as most who looked up to Bakugo Katsuki for his wit and power. He may not seem like it, but Bakugo is smart. He knew how UA worked, and having an incredible quirk would attract attention, overshadowing his past. It worked." "Why didn't you say anything, Midoriya?" Kirishima asked, frustrated that nobody had taken action. Midoriya thought for a moment. "When we were kids, accusing him to his mom only resulted in a lecture and punishment for me. In high school, I was ignored, and, if anything, I ended up being punished for bothering the king of the place. When I entered UA, I was afraid the same would happen again, but his abuse drastically decreased, and I could move on with my life." "And now you won't accuse him?" Kirishima questioned, feeling helpless. Midoriya pondered, "I won't say anything more, but I didn't say I won't act to do something." He looked at Kirishima. "Bakugo won't stop, and once he's out of the hospital, he'll likely do something against me, directly or indirectly. Do you really think I'll sit there and take the hits?" "Whatever your plan is, Midoriya," Kirishima extended his hand, "please let me help." Midoriya hesitated but accepted, "I suppose that's fine. All you have to do, Kirishima, is reveal the truth about Dynamite when he returns to UA in a week. Spread the truth on the internet or tell Nezu. I don't care as long as it's known." "I understand," Kirishima replied with a military-like posture. "Stop that, it makes me nervous," Midoriya said, and the embarrassed redhead lowered his head. "If that's all, I'm going to prepare for the day." "Thank you for your time, Midoriya," Kirishima bowed, feeling determined. "I swear on my honor I won't let you down." With that, he left calmly. Midoriya sighed and glanced at the receptionist, who was enjoying a cupcake. "This is better than a soap opera," she exclaimed, to which Midoriya sighed again and walked away through the hallways. Meanwhile, as the truth unfolded for Kirishima, exhausting moments were taking place at Ryukyu's agency for the 2-3A girls present. When Nehire arrived yesterday and reported what happened to her friend and teacher, Ryukyu was not pleased with the situation of the freckled hero. Ryukyu respected the hero Midoriya, though she didn't announce it openly. There weren't many like him nowadays, so she didn't hesitate to intensify Froppy and Arabity's grueling training along with additional patrol hours. It was the least she could do, but she felt it was necessary. The aspiring heroes felt puzzled but didn't resist their teachers demanding training. They knew they could endure it because that's what heroes do, especially those in UA. Tsuyu, finishing an exhausting training, complained, "My legs hurt, ribbit." Ryukyu seemed to be pushing it too far. Uraka, putting things away, suggested, maybe she's angry with her boyfriend or something and just wants to vent. Either way, Uraka-chan. Tsuyu looked at the brunette with curiosity. Have you thought about Mina-chan's proposal? Before leaving, the pink-skinned girl obsessed with dynamite made an indecent proposal to her classmates. Mina only asked for something she described as simple, to go to Bakugo's room on the day he left the hospital and become part of the great hero Dynamite's harem. Obviously, I'm going to refuse, Uraka said, sipping a juice she bought. Katsuki certainly seems sexy, but he's not my type. He's too explosive for my taste. She thought with joy, besides, Ida-kun is too good, and I love him a lot. Tsuyu, calm, said, it sounds like a bad idea, ribbit. As much as Mina-chan is my friend and describes Bakugo-chan as a Greek god or tireless sexual machine, I'm not interested in being in a harem. She was somewhat angry with her pink-skinned friend and her nonsense. As you think the others will take it? Uraka asked, already seated and unable to withstand the muscle pain. It's likely that she'll convince Toru-chan. Yamomo and Jiro-chan already rejected the offer. Tsuyu recalled how Mina begged her two friends. Yaoyorozu admired her perfect body and what she could do to please Bakugo. Of course, the dark-haired girl didn't like it and refused even more vehemently. As for the purple-haired girl, she rejected the idea without being very interested in it. Toru will probably join her in her madness, Uraka said, leaving the place straight to their rooms at the agency. Do you think she'll try to include girls from other classes? Probably. Tsuyu followed her friend. At the agency where the pink-skinned girl was, she was on the phone with her invisible best friend. She finally convinced Toru to join Dynamite's harem, and now she only needed Uraka and Tsuyu. After that, she would force the girls from Class B as a small revenge against Deku for leaving her beloved Katsu in the hospital during the internship week. For now, she knew how to attract one of them, Setsuna. The green-haired girl surely would melt at the sight of Dynamite's great tool. She just had to wait, and she and Bakugo would have a harem that Deku would surely envy. Izuku walked out of the agency in his new hero suit, a far cry from his early days when he wanted to be a copy of All Might. That boy had grown, straying from the path of imitating All Might. He wasn't sure what kind of hero he wanted to be, but one thing was clear, he wouldn't be like the former #1 hero from America. His dark green suit clung to his body, fitting well with his current movements. It had lighter green lines running from his legs to his neck, forming an arrow pattern on his back. The chest lines were pronounced, ascending only on his sides. His gloves were more comfortable with fewer support devices, only featuring openings for his whips. Around his waist, a belt held various attachments, a rope for combat exhaustion, chocolates for calming panicked people, and some extras he hadn't figured out yet. He wore Gran Torino's cape as a scarf, a reminder of the war he didn't want to forget, along with a metallic mouth cover and a respirator for gas attacks, an imposing figure as he walked. As he stepped onto the street, people looked with varied expressions. Children were curious and excited, recognizing the green hair and feeling energized by the powerful broccoli who defeated Dynamite. They waved from a distance, as their parents kept them away, having other things to attend to. Some looked at him with fear, remembering how he left the best at UA, while others felt secure, believing such strength could protect everyone. Izuku wasn't entirely used to the attention, but he continued his patrol, acknowledging the kids who had time to greet him. After a while, he reached the spot where he found Eri, recalling the time with his makeshift All Might mask that looked more like a rabbit. He continued until he was hit with a glass on his head, turning to find an angry red-haired girl glaring at him. "Get lost, monster," she said angrily, receiving another hit, this time a stone on the head, from another girl with almost translucent pale skin, sporting the same hatred-filled gaze. "We don't want someone who almost killed Dynamite," she yelled angrily, drawing attention from onlookers who awaited the green-haired hero's response. "If I leave, will you go away?" "We don't want your protection," shouted a boy with shark-like teeth. "Leave." Soon, a few kids supporting Bakugo stood up, siding with them and berating the broccoli. However, a cry for help interrupted the commotion. In the midst of the crowd, a terrified woman screamed as a man threatened her baby near high-voltage cables, demanding her compliance or he would harm the child. The people panicked, some fled or called the police. Bakugo's followers didn't want to let the green-haired hero go, and Izuku felt his limit approaching. What do you think you can do? You'll kill the kid, please, said the shark-toothed guy. Izuku replied coldly, move aside, willingly or not. The tension rose, and the guy took advantage of the chaos to escape. He's getting away. Without waiting, Izuku disappeared in a blur. Eh? The coward ran away. What a hero, said the red-haired girl who initiated the conflict. My baby, cried the frightened mother. To their surprise, the green-haired hero held the infant in his arms, seemingly on the verge of tears. He handed the baby back to the mother and tied the culprit to a store, waiting for the police. Everyone looked at him in astonishment. Angered, Bakugo's followers still wanted to humiliate Izuku, coordinating to throw things and insult him, despite pleas from the crowd to stop. Izuku didn't respond, it wasn't worth it. It was only when a stone hit his forehead, causing a cut near his eye, that they saw his calm eyes slowly light up. Inwardly, Izuku heard voices tempting him to kill those idiots who believed in Bakugo so blindly. What will you do now? Ha ha ha, laughed the translucent-skinned girl when Izuku's whips captured all three, who looked at him in fear. Very bold behind others, right? He said calmly, furious. You're just angry kids who don't know anything except being lapdogs for an idiot with an ego bigger than his manhood, he shouted angrily, making the three tremble. What? What are you going to do? The red-haired girl spoke trembling. Attacking a hero, what do you think will happen? He said seriously, and the three looked at each other. Bubble Girl appeared, her expression serious. Depending on how severe the attack was, you could be considered villains for assaulting a law defender, she explained. Considering the situation, probably just a lecture and a fine. Congratulations on picking a fight for something so stupid. Your parents will have to pay because I'm sure you brats don't have money, he said, still angry as Bubble Girl took over. I'll take it from here, you're free to go, she said to Izuku, who nodded and continued his patrol. People looked somewhat angry at Izuku, some had small smiles. The children still followed him with excitement, and the reactions continued until the end of the patrol. There were more disturbances, some criticized Izuku's actions, while others defended him. A long journey that left him exhausted. Upon reaching Eri, she awaited him with a hug and a band-aid for his wound. Mirio brought a bowl of katsudon for Izuku, who sat with Eri, both finally eating in peace. In his room, he lay down mentally exhausted with Eri playing on her phone. A call came in. Eri. Who's Shiozaki? Izuku half paid attention. She's calling? The albino nodded, and Izuku stayed in bed. Answer if you want. Okay. With a smile, Eri answered the call excitedly. Izuku Midoriya-san? The green-haired girl was puzzled by the childish voice. Dad's tired and wants to sleep, Eri innocently said without realizing the confusion caused. Dad? Now, the girl's curiosity piqued. Who are you? Eri asked, still smiling. I'm a friend of your dad, she said, finding it hard to believe. Did he say he was tired? Yes, he said his day wasn't good, but I'll help him, Eri spoke with conviction. I understand. I'll call later. Tell Midoriya-san I called, she said, ending the call. Dad, Eri said with a smile at the sleeping Izuku. Hee hee. With a mischievous smile, she went to play a prank. Ibara didn't waste time calling Kendo to share what she found out about Izuku. However, the pink-haired girl didn't believe any of it and decided to take a nap. Kendo, for the last time, Ibara Midoriya-san doesn't have a daughter. Now, can I get some sleep? She spoke half asleep, having spent the whole day helping in an accident. Ibara, please, Kendo-san, I need to know if it's true. On the other side, the pink-haired girl sighed tiredly. Kendo, tell Kanoko to go check it out, she's the closest. If you're so curious. She spoke almost asleep. Ibara, thanks, Kendo-san. The pink-haired girl hung up without saying anything. Fatigue overcame her. That was very rude. The next day, the mushroom-powered brunette was in front of the Night Eye Agency with a calm smile and the mission to discover Midoriya's daughter and why he never mentioned it. Kanoko, I guess you're here to see Midoriya. She said with a touch of humor, knowing someone would come for him. Kanoko, hee hee. She scratched her cheek, a bit embarrassed. That's right. Receptionist, he's waiting for you upstairs. She said with a chuckle, that guy was indeed entertaining to watch. The brunette headed to the lounge, where her partner and friend was with the albino girl they once took care of together. Eri ran to Kanoko as soon as she saw her, upset. Kanoko, Eri-chan, she stroked the girl's cheek, but Eri still pouted. What's wrong? Eri, Daddy punished me, she said angrily, finding it unfair that her father scolded her just for putting whipped cream on his face and almost drowning him. Kanoko, Daddy? As far as the brunette remembered, Midoriya didn't have any relatives, so the girl, knowing this, pointed seriously at Izuku with a serious expression and some whipped cream on his cheek. Huh? Eri-chan is your daughter, and you never told anyone? Izuku, I found out this week, and Miss Saint here didn't find it amusing. Your prank didn't make me laugh. He said seriously, and Eri stuck her tongue out in rebellion. Kanoko, how's that possible? She asked the freckled guy while petting Eri's head, who felt comfortable enough to let her. Izuku, the government wanted to do bad things to Eri-chan, so to protect her, I became her father. He said, watching as the girl showed a face of complete peace. I still think Mirio would do a better job. Kanoko, you don't know that. She looked at the girl, who was still in her world of cuteness. Eri-chan is special, and you're the good guy who saved her from a horrible fate. Have confidence that you can be her father figure. Izuku, I don't know. He felt a hand on his face and saw Eri with a wide smile. What's up? Eri, you're a good dad, and I know it. The conviction in her words was adorable. Izuku, say whatever you want, you're still grounded. The girl puffed up her cheeks indignantly and went to her room to play with the plushies Nehire gave her. Kanoko, and you say you're not a good father. She laughed at the scene. Midoriya-kun is kind and good, you can differentiate things and know how to guide Eri-chan. I'm sure of it. By the way, what will you do with Eri-chan once the internships are over? Izuku, oh? She'll come to live in the dorms. The director approved it already. He thinks that in such a healthy environment as Class B, Eri-chan will have a great guide and good company. He ate a bread and looked at the excited brunette. Want one? He extended the bread, and the brunette nodded. Kanoko, thanks, Midoriya-kun. She ate the bread, savoring its delicious filling. Izuku, do you have anything to do today? He asked the girl who was still enjoying her meal. Kanoko, only at night. I have a night patrol. She smiled at the freckled guy, who got up from the chair. Izuku, Mirio has me out since yesterday. Do you want to stay and watch a movie with Eri and me? The brunette nodded and went for the albino. It would be an entertaining afternoon. Kanoko, by the way, Midoriya-kun. She approached the freckled guy and hugged him, surprising him. We all saw what happened yesterday. You're not a villain, and you did nothing wrong. You're the best person and a great hero, don't doubt it. Izuku, he returned the hug a bit dazed. It may not seem like it, but yesterday affected him. He's not very unstable yet, so he still doubts his steps. Thanks for the support, Komori-san. They broke the hug, and the brunette pouted. Kanoko, call me Kanoko, please. We're friends, it's not fair that only Yui-chan you treat more closely, she accused the freckled guy, who sighed. Izuku, I'll try, Komori, the brunette continued with her pout. Kei Kanoko-san. It felt weird to call her that, and he swore he could hear Nana teasing him. Kanoko, that's better. She sweetly smiled at the freckled guy and went to tell Eri. Izuku, it's going to be a long day. He sighed tiredly without even doing anything. Mirio, don't look at it that way, Midoriya-kun. The blonde's head appeared from the ceiling with a big smile. Take it positively, you'll watch a movie with your daughter and your girlfriend. He tried to make the freckled guy nervous, but it didn't work. Izuku, we're not dating, just, a sincere smile appeared on his face. Friends. It feels good to say that. Mirio, sure. He narrowed his eyes, not very convinced of that, and withdrew slowly. Izuku, I guess he's right, and I'm just being paranoid. He went to the room to put on a movie, which they enjoyed. They spent the afternoon watching one movie after another, with Izuku sleeping most of the time. Having Eri so close, he wouldn't drink any alcohol, and hitting his head could wake and scare the child, so he spent the night awake, knowing what awaited him in dreams. Fortunately, he had no nightmares or dreams. Being in a state of exhaustion and so warm between Eri and Kanoko made him sleep like a baby, and of course, Eri played her part with a partner who liked mushrooms. This time, she got a very funny panda face. Izuku, you know I'll get back at you for this, right? He said, still with a painted face and having Kanoko on his back. It seemed right to leave her at her agency at night. Kanoko, I couldn't resist. Sorry, Midoriya-kun. She said, laughing just when they arrived at the agency where Kanoko was. Thanks for the afternoon, Midoriya-kun. She smiled at the freckled guy who was looking out the window, and when the brunette noticed, her colleagues were watching him. Midoriya-kun, she spoke nervously knowing it was a golden opportunity. Izuku, it's my revenge, he smiled maliciously and nailed the nail that would lead Kanoko to absolute embarrassment. He kissed her on the cheek and flew away, leaving the brunette as red as her hero hat. The week passed calmly after that moment with Kanoko, who revealed the truth about the freckled guy. Thanks to Eri, he slept peacefully that night. At the week's end, Izuku, with an extra suitcase and Eri in his arms, headed to the dorms. He had things to explain and jokes to endure from his friends. He still couldn't believe entirely what was happening. He thought he might wake up in his room in 3A at any moment, and everything would continue in a terrible course. Fortunately, they arrived at the dorms quite happily. Ignoring the gray clouds that covered the day, the trip with Eri was calm. She was excited and, in the last stretch to the dorms, the girl ran from her father's grip, opening the door just as Kendo scolded Tetsu for breaking a lamp. Kurohiro, Kendo, the white-haired guy stopped the angry orange-haired girl who looked at him with murderous intent. The door, he spoke scared. The older sister was scary when she set her mind to it. Eri, oh, she said, ignoring the furious orange-haired girl. Ibara, Eri-san? The plant-haired girl came out from the feminine side of the dorms with a fern in her hands, surprised to see the sweet girl here. Monoma, hello, little one, the blonde tried to use Eri as an excuse to calm the president. Izuku, Eri-chan, I told you not to go so fast. The freckled guy entered after the girl, holding both suitcases and looking around. Did something happen? Awase, Tetsu and Monoma broke the lamp Kendo used for reading, he revealed, pointing to his friends who looked at the black-haired guy before getting scared. Kendo, you two haven't escaped, she said ominously, cracking her knuckles with force. Monoma, we have only one salvation, he said seriously next to the gray-haired guy. Midoriya, help. They both ran to hide behind the freckled guy, who was leaving the suitcases near the door leading to the complex. Izuku, eh? He looked at the orange fury and his friends hiding behind him, then just stepped aside. Don't involve me in your troubles. The orange-haired girl's smile grew as the two hugged each other in fear. Yanagi, where will Eri-chan sleep? She asked the freckled guy while the girl laughed as Reiko used her quirk to move toys back and forth in a fun game for her. Izuku, well, he didn't finish speaking as the sounds of pain from both friends stopped him, and he looked at the president. Kendo, don't take it the wrong way, Midoriya-san, but I think it's best if Eri-chan sleeps with us. You have, she remembered how he slept and the tactics he used, not convincing at all, very strange sleeping rituals. Izuku, I agree, it's better for Eri-chan to sleep with you. I don't know with whom, but it's the best. Yui, Eri-chan, the girl looked at the black-haired girl, leaving the floating plushie. With whom would you like to sleep? Eri, she looked at everyone with radiant smiles. With everyone. Kendo, it's best if each of us takes a day, and Setsuna, she looked at the green-haired girl, who was using her quirk to entertain the girl. Setsuna, yes? She said playfully as Eri trapped her abdomen and tickled her. Kendo, no video games after 10, the green-haired girl pouted at the orange-haired one before laughing because of Eri. Izuku, A message from All Might arrived on his phone. Surprised, he saw it was a request to meet. Pony, is something wrong, Midoriya-san? The blonde looked at the seriousness of the freckled guy without understanding much. Izuku, I'll go for a walk, he said it seriously, not convincing anyone, but they trusted that nothing bad would happen. Toshinori found a way for Bakugo to use his power. It wasn't morally accepted, but it would work. The plan was to use a quirk-erasing bullet from the two that still existed, and then Midoriya gave one for all to his true successor. In case he refused, the American blonde used another quirk-erasing bullet on himself, returning some of the power to Toshinori and reverting to his inflated form. He asked Midoriya to meet at the Heroes Hall in UA, a place to commemorate those who gave their lives to save others, with statues and certain devices or items that belong to the heroes. The blonde looked seriously at the path just as lightning appeared in the distance, and thunder rumbled on the horizon. Midoriya appeared with a serious and somewhat mocking look. Izuku, I'm back, master, he bowed as a courtesy to the former symbol of peace, who looked serious. All Might, this shouldn't be your home, and I'm no longer your master, he replied seriously. Izuku, oh, really? You have a new favorite, he said with humor and a touch of anger, and where is that dynamite? Did I scare him? He teased, to which the blonde looked more serious. All Might, give him one for all, he spoke, ignoring the taunts. Izuku, so, is this how it's going to be? he said somewhat indignantly and angrily, turning slightly. All Might, this is how it should be, he declared, getting into an attack pose. Izuku jumped very high before landing with a kick that the retired hero narrowly avoided. He was astonished when the freckled guy lifted a piece of the ground and kicked it. The stone shattered with a punch from the American blonde, who didn't see the green-haired guy's punch that broke the door, only stopping in the middle of the hall. Izuku, I went mad for many months because of your weakness, he said forcefully and angrily, partly blaming Toshinori for his neglect. The American blonde focused on the one who supposedly defeated his enemy, treating him like a son. All Might, obeying your responsibilities is not weakness, he said with his guard up, expecting the green-haired guy's attack. Izuku, you know I'm the best holder, you've always known it, he said angrily, and a bitter memory came to him. But when an idiot tells a lie, what did you do? What did you do? He shouted, remembering how, leaving the hospital and heading to his master, he was ignored for going to Bakugo. Stupidity, he answered his own question with bitterness. All Might, it wasn't your destiny to be the possessor of One for All. It's not my fault, he said angrily. Izuku, it wasn't your fault? He shouted indignantly, approaching the American just near the retired hero Yoroi's armor, who filled my head with dreams. He kicked the armor with fury, causing All Might to dodge. The freckled guy approached a piece of the shield hero crust and took it in his hands, who made me train until my bones broke. He threw the disc at the blonde, who narrowly avoided it, getting stuck in a pillar. He approached the Yoroi's weapon display and took it in his hands, who was denying me my destiny. He threw each weapon simultaneously, regardless of the result. The former hero blocked and deflected each weapon until there was none left. That's when the freckled guy lifted a strange sword with his feet, throwing it with a kick. The American rotated the weapon behind his back and stuck it in the ground. All Might, I shouldn't have taken that decision lightly, he said a little tired as the effect wore off. Izuku, oh, and now you realize? He asked, right in front of a statue of Nightai. The American approached angrily, delivering 2 blows that the freckled guy covered with his left forearm before kicking, which didn't connect, followed by a leg sweep. All Might jumped, landing on his right, and the freckled guy jumped, landing on his left, using his whips against the blonde's neck and slamming him to the ground. All Might, give back the power, he said, struggling against the whips and the attempted suffocation. Izuku, rather die, he replied, putting more strength into the grip. The American fought against the whips, and the freckled guy just wanted to keep him still, putting too much tension on his whips that ended up breaking and freeing All Might, who was breathing with difficulty. He looked at the statue of his friend, checking for any damage. He didn't have time to think when a kick from the freckled guy hit him in the head, pushing both towards a nearby wall, cracking it. The blonde fell somewhat dizzy to the ground, looking at the freckled guy just as he lunged at him. Trying to create distance, the former number 1 jumped from pillar to pillar, followed by the green-haired guy with clear anger in his eyes. They continued their game of cat and mouse until All Might saw no other option and pierced the roof, followed by Izuku. In the air, still with lightning, Izuku threw punch after kick, and the blonde defended as best he could, counterattacking when the freckled guy made a wrong punch, grabbing his arm and making his chest go towards the ground. Not letting himself be defeated, Izuku struggled, using his arm to destabilize the blonde, succeeding in reversing the positions, with the slight difference that Izuku held him by the neck. When they pierced the roof, Izuku delivered a kick, leaving them separated by many meters, hitting different pillars. All Might fell to the cold ground, stunned, while Izuku fell onto Crust's belongings along with candles and a couple of flammable things, creating a small wall of blue fire between his master and himself. Taking a slight impulse, he took the oil on fire and continued with his palms on fire towards a frightened All Might. Izuku, everything I did was to make you proud, he said hurt, delivering blows that All Might either dodged or resisted. Tell me you're proud, Toshinori. The blows increased, and the blonde's fear and shame also increased. Tell me. Tell me. With a double punch, he sent All Might to the lake where water horse statues were. The blonde deflated in pain, and the freckled guy finally extinguished the flames on his hands, the burning sensation gone, thanks to the adrenaline. All Might, I was always proud of you, he said exhausted and weak. From the first moment I was proud. And it was my pride that blinded me. He breathed heavily, and the freckled guy hit hard. I didn't see what was happening. How unstable you were. I focused on who I shouldn't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The freckled guy said nothing. Angry, he grabbed the blonde's neck and lifted him with anger and pain in his eyes. Izuku, I don't want your apologies. I'm not going to give One for All, he said, slamming him against the pavement, generating cracks. All Might, Midoriya Shonen, it's for the best, to keep us all safe, he said, slowly running out of air. You should never have received it. You will never be a hero. Never. Never, he struggled to breathe. The freckled guy raised his left fist loaded with Fa Jin, ready to deliver the final blow. Izuku, he deserves it, he wants to steal the only thing we're proud of, he's an idiot, kill him, his inner voice urged him to continue, and he was about to do it when another voice dissuaded him. Nana, no, Izuku, deep in his mind, her voice echoed, Toshinori may be a fool, but he doesn't deserve that. Don't do it. Be better than him, show how great you can be, prove that you can be a hero, she said desperately and sadly. Izuku, he thought, looking at the blonde who was already starting to turn blue, arg, he hit the ground next to the blonde and released him, you're not worth it, and Bakugo doesn't deserve this power. The rain began to fall, and the freckled guy left the place with tears in his eyes. The rain kept falling, and the freckled boy just walked, ignoring the fact that his hands were burnt and hurting like hell. All Might's words echoed in his head, tears of sadness and frustration on his cheeks. Despite trying to be strong, he was mentally and emotionally fragile, not knowing what to do or think. He walked automatically, not knowing where he was going. Finally snapping out of his mental struggles, he found himself in front of Class B's dorms. He walked a long way in the rain, unsure whether to knock or leave to spare others from his misery. Kanoko, Midoriya-kun? The brunette opened the door, seeing a soaked and lost Izuku with burnt hands. Alarms went off in her head. Ibara, Midoriya-san, panicked, she approached the stunned and lost boy who didn't know what to do. I'll get the first aid kit, she left the room, leaving only the 3B girls. Kendo, Midoriya-san, she approached the freckled boy who was staring at the ground, the most interesting thing in the world. Midoriya-san, she shook his shoulder, but he didn't look. Midoriya-san, she did it with a bit more force, still no response. Izuku, he finally reacted, looking at the president who was very concerned. Izuku, president, he murmured with no energy, looking around. His classmates looked at him curiously. Am I a villain? He asked with fear, and they all exchanged glances. Setsuna, where did you hear that? Alarmed, she looked closely at her classmate, who was trembling not just from the cold. Pony, Midoriya-san is not a villain, the blonde said confidently. You've been a hero many times, helping everyone with their problems, putting their safety above yours. You are a hero, she asserted with a kind smile. Setsuna, where did you hear otherwise? I'll go beat them up for making you doubt, she said angrily, and Izuku looked at her in astonishment. Izuku, he looked at the ground again, as if it held the answers. Just as Ibara returned with the first aid kit. All Might thinks I won't be a hero, he said in simple words, surprising everyone present. It hurts. He was the first person to tell me I could be a hero, tears welled up, and not just because Ibara was about to tend to his wounds. Yui, Midoriya-san, the black-haired girl hugged him, stroking his green hair. Kendo, he's just an idiot who doesn't know what he's saying, she assured the boy who looked at the girls. Just an idiot who cares too much about Bakugo. Midoriya Izuku, you will be one of the greatest heroes ever. The orange-haired girl joined the hug, embracing her two friends. Pony, I want a hug too, the blonde joined the hug from the left, hugging the freckled boy's head, who continued to cry. Setsuna, me too, the green-haired girl separated from the group, hugging him from the back. Midoriya-kun, you know perfectly well that you are a great hero. Kanoko, I said it before, Midoriya-kun, you are the best person and a great hero, the brunette said, sitting on the boy's legs, not knowing how she ended up there. Reiko, Midoriya-san is a good friend who supports us in whatever we need. You're not bad or a villain, the gray-haired girl hugged him with Setsuna, and Izuku didn't know what to think. Ibara, I guess I'm the last one, with a calm smile and thanks to Yui, who made space, the green-haired girl hugged the boy's torso or what Kanoko allowed. It doesn't matter what an old hero says, Midoriya-san, you are the person who deserves to be a hero the most. The freckled boy was trapped between very soft objects that calmed him. The warmth emitted, and the confusion in his head were enough to make him fall asleep with tears on Pony's chest. Pony, Girls, when the broccoli hug festival ended, the friends looked in amazement as Midoriya seemed to sleep peacefully with two pillows on his head. Now what? Setsuna, PFFF, trying to suppress a laugh because this was extremely funny. The innocent look of a cinnamon roll in Mom's arms and Pony's embarrassment for having the boy on her chest without being able to do anything. Ibara, we should take him to his room, she said, embarrassed by such a special scene. She knew the boy had trouble sleeping, but the situation was too much for her. Reiko, Pony, You'll have to endure until we get there, amazed at how easily the boy fell asleep. Setsuna, and how will we carry the giant baby to his crib? She asked with a giggle. The situation was too adorable for her. Kendo, let's use Ibara's vines and try not to wake him, she sighed at the situation. She would talk to both Izuku and Vlad about what had happened. With great effort, the girls took the boy and his living pillow to his room. At some point, Izuku clung more to his classmate, increasing her embarrassment. They tried to get him to let go of Pony once they reached his bed, but he didn't. The warmth from the blonde and her natural pillows were enough to make him sleep for a very long time. Pony, what am I supposed to do? She whispered, not wanting to wake him up. Kendo, Midoriya-san has a strong grip. We just have to wait for him to wake up, she replied in a whisper. Setsuna, look at the bright side, you have an innocent cinnamon roll in your arms, she saw the positive side, and the blonde looked at the boy who slept peacefully and calmly, breathing without any nightmares. Pony, I guess, her face turned as red as an apple from the cuteness of the sleeping boy. Yui, we'll come back in a few hours with some food, she said with a serious look. She didn't like disturbing her unstable friend in this way. Meanwhile, with the former number 1 hero, the blonde was found by the director Nezu himself, who, not believing much in the American blonde, followed him to the scene of the fight. The ground and roof were destroyed, walls broken, and disorder everywhere. The most noticeable thing was All Might lying unconscious on the ground. He had tried, and Midoriya resisted. If the mouse believed, his student faced the blonde and ended up like this. Ectoplasma, what will we do, director? The ghost asked his superior, who only watched as the clones helped the blonde leave on a stretcher. Nezu, we'll need the whole story, he said seriously. Call Midoriya, we need to talk. When Vlad King was informed of what his most recent student had done, there was no surprise. It was no secret to anyone how close All Might and Midoriya were in their first year. Of course, everything changed after the war, and the American blonde practically hated the freckled boy. No one understood why the great mentor, All Might, suddenly switched Midoriya for the human bomb. When he went to the assigned class dormitory, the class president asked about something involving both of them. Kendo explained Midoriya's condition and burns. The surprised teacher only went to examine his student's state and, incidentally, notify him of the inevitable visit from the director. Upon entering the room, the freckled boy was sleeping, embraced by Pony, who slept with her arms around his head. Peace reigned in the room. Vlad King, Midoriya, Tsunotori, he said calmly to both who barely moved, this will be difficult. He approached them, moving slightly. Izuku, he stirred a bit, adjusting himself better on his human pillow that hugged him more. Vlad King, Midoriya, he stirred a bit more forcefully, and the freckled boy finally showed signs of waking up, moving his face on the comfortable pillow and looking at his teacher before the soft pillow that was still asleep. Izuku, sensei? He rubbed his eye and then stretched, looking at his room and the companion in his bed. Wow. Vlad King, yes, once you're done here with Tsunotori, there are important things to discuss. His serious tone made the half-asleep freckled boy shiver. Izuku, is it about All Might, right? He said when he fully woke up, already knowing what was coming. Surely they would scold him for being impulsive, and it's clear that Nezu will speak to ensure he never enters another academy, ruining his life even more. Vlad King, we don't know exactly what happened, so the director called you, he said seriously to the drowsy freckled boy who lowered his gaze. Come on now. Izuku, I understand. He got out of bed, leaving Pony sleeping soundly, and left under the watchful eyes of his classmates, who followed suit after arranging their rooms. Reiko, Midoriya-san, the gray-haired girl approached the sad freckled boy and smiled. No matter what happens, we'll always be your friends. Juzo, don't doubt it for a second, Midoriya, he said with a smile, supported by the class. Ibara, I'll pray for your well-being. With this, the freckled boy left the dormitories with his teacher. Eri, Miss Yui, the black-haired girl looked at the albino who was nervous. Will Daddy be okay? Yui, relax, sweetheart, he'll be just fine, she smiled at the girl, who didn't seem convinced. The teacher and the student walked in silence, mainly because Vlad didn't want to say something that his student might misinterpret. He knew well how the freckled boy's mind worked and what he was scheming. He couldn't stop it, so he limited himself to giving him space and carefully considering his words. Vlad King, Midoriya, he spoke just before the freckled boy entered the principal's office. I don't understand much about what's happening, but if there's one thing I'm sure of, it's not good to overthink it as you do. I support you, no matter what happens. Izuku, I appreciate your vote of confidence, sensei. He weakly smiled and opened the door. The director was there with a calm smile. and in a chair sat Detective Tsukuchi. Nothing good could come of this. Nezu, young Midoriya, it's good to see you. The mouse analyzed everything he could about the freckled boy, his hunched figure, scared look, bandaged hands, and a more than secure retracted behavior due to fear of being in front of a public authority figure and another student. Could you take a seat? The freckled boy nervously nodded and closed the door behind him, sitting next to the police officer. I suppose you already know why you're here. Izuku, All Might, he said nervously, here ends his childhood dream. Tsukuchi, don't take it the wrong way, young man, we just want to know what happened, he spoke, trying to ease the tension for the teenager. Could you start? Izuku, I understand. He thought for a minute and looked at both of them, who were expectant but not impatient. All Might sent a message. He said we needed to talk seriously about something but didn't clarify anything. Nezu, you met in the Heroes' Hall, correct? The green-haired boy nodded fearfully, wanting to lie and save his skin, but he knew that would do more harm than good. What happened once you arrived? Izuku, he asked me to give him one for all, he said, expecting anything against him personally, but there were only incredulous looks. Tsukuchi, you fought, I deduce? The freckled boy nodded, looking at the ground. Did you know who Toshinori wanted you to pass the power to? The green-haired boy nodded. It was pretty obvious. Izuku, he wanted to give it to Bakugo. With nervousness, he said, hoping the director was on the side of the blonde as usual. Tsukuchi, did he mention any plan for Dynamite to have the power without problems? The freckled boy shook his head, still believing he was in trouble. Izuku, he'll expel me, right? He said sadly, just when things seemed to be getting better, they only got worse. Nezu, I don't know where you get that idea, young Midoriya. The freckled boy looked at the director, signaling some mockery or lie. Toshinori made that mistake. You defended what is yours, just as All Might and Nana did before him. Only the bearer decides, not the master. He smiled at the incredulous freckled boy. Izuku, he won't expel me for attacking the symbol of peace? He spoke, not believing it. Nezu, the old symbol of peace, that position is not taken yet, and I doubt anyone would want it given the current situation, he replied calmly, analyzing Izuku. He was worse off than he thought. I suppose the events are too much for him. Izuku, he won't arrest me? He said, looking at the detective. Tsukuchi, oh, I'm more for protocol, Midoriya, my quirk helps a lot in interrogations, he said, ignoring what he wanted to know about his American friend. Izuku, so, I'm not in trouble? He continued, not believing anything, to which the director chuckled. Nezu, no, Midoriya, you're fine, and you won't leave UA, the relieved freckled boy sighed. May I suggest something, young Midoriya? Izuku, yes? He said nervously. Nezu, go to Hound Dog, young Midoriya, more than anyone, you need help. The freckled boy just took this as an order and nodded. We appreciate your cooperation. Izuku, it's nothing, he spoke tensely just as the door opened, revealing All Might bandaged and angry, looking at the freckled boy, his friend, and the director. All Might, seems like I didn't need to lift a finger, he smiled at what he thought. The freckled boy was forced to give up his power. Tsukuchi, it's not what you think, Toshinori, we were just catching up on the latest events, he sighed, irritated with his friend. All Might, what do you mean? Now he didn't understand anything. Nezu, I'll put it in simple terms, Toshinori. One more infraction against the young man here or his class, and you'll be fired, he said seriously to the surprised American. All Might, no, he can't do that, he spoke nervously. He had to train the next symbol of peace, he had to train Dynamite. Nezu, I am the director of this school, and I won't tolerate a teacher belittling a student, and I certainly won't tolerate a teacher taking away the power of someone as promising as Midoriya. Izuku, the seriousness in his words made the former hero tremble. The red-haired guy barely slept during the internship week, putting in a lot of effort to gather evidence against Dynamite. He took Midoriya's advice seriously and decided to consult with the smartest person they knew, surprisingly, their director. He researched extensively, delving into police files and reaching out to those who had experienced mistreatment from the blonde. He assured them that Bakugo Katsuki would face consequences for his actions. The girls shared information about attempted assaults with Fatgum's agency, and Tetsu offered his assistance. The situation was awkward for both Kirishima and his metallic companion. Kirishima reflected on his past actions with his silver-haired peer, realizing he had treated him poorly. He had allowed himself to be influenced by Bakugo and acted inconsiderately towards almost everyone. He acknowledged the need to make amends, vowing to do so after holding Bakugo accountable. When Midoriya's message appeared on his phone, Kirishima felt a mix of anger and disgust towards Dynamite's fans. Fortunately, His own fans were more considerate. As the week passed, both exhausted metapods had to be ready for action on Monday, as Sunday had been spent in deep sleep. However, their arrival coincided with their classmates from 3A. "Toru, when is Katsuki arriving?" she asked eagerly. Her pink friend anticipated an exciting time with UA's most powerful student, expecting affectionate treatment and nights filled with passion. "Mina, Mitsuki-san mentioned he's coming on Wednesday, and I can't wait," she replied, entering her friend's room. As their classmates were not willing to participate in a harem, Mina had to strategize carefully. She emphasized the importance of freedom for her friends, they could choose their paths. "Who in your agency is interested?" she asked excitedly, aware that Toru was on a mission to gather girls for the harem. "Toru, almost everyone wants to be with Katsuki," she declared joyfully. Bakugo was in for a big surprise. "Mina, perfect," she spoke with a hint of mischief. "Now, let's move on to the next part of my plan," she said with enthusiasm, plotting a playful revenge against Deku by drawing his friends away, without any pressure. "What did you find out?" "Toru, not much. Kendo is always training, Kodai didn't reveal anything, Komori is obsessed with mushrooms, Shiozaki is a very pure religious girl, Tsunotori is elusive about personal topics, Yanagi hasn't shown much, and Tokage, well, she's Tokage," she replied somewhat frustrated for not uncovering much. "Mina, I've already planned something for Setsuna-chan he, she laughed with a mischievous gleam. "By Friday, that girl will be captivated by Katsu." Monday arrived with fresh hopes for the week. After meeting Nezu on Sunday, Izuku arrived uncertain. His friends welcomed him with a bowl of katsudon and a movie marathon selected by Yui. Kendo prepared breakfast for Iri, who desired sweets, but both the orange-haired and black-haired girls kindly declined. "Kendo, Ibara, can you go wake up Midoriya-san?" she asked while preparing breakfast for Iri. "Ibara, I'd prefer not to do it, Kendo-san," she said nervously, recalling the freckled guy's sleeping habits and feeling embarrassed. "Setsuna, I'll go," she said eagerly, running up the stairs to her friend's room. "Midoriya-kun," she entered without hesitation, finding Izuku searching for his pants in the closet. "Oh my, Ibara-chan wasn't exaggerating," she commented, biting her lip. Izuku, unfazed by his lack of pants, assured her he'd be ready soon. "Setsuna, you're quite the handsome one, Midoriya-kun," she winked playfully, and Izuku looked at her with a bemused expression. "Izuku, if you say so," not understanding much, he continued changing while Setsuna happily made her breakfast. "I wonder why she said that?" he murmured, not fully grasping his companion's comment. Nervously, Izuku, accompanied by his classmates, headed to UA, discussing their recent experiences. Juzo got stuck in the street due to a child with an uncontrollable quirk, Kendo offered assistance, and, of course, Izuku dealt with Dynamite's fan troubles. Upon reaching their classroom, a very cheerful Kirishima awaited them at the door. He had something perfect to start the day, and the director believed it was best to reveal it on Monday when Bakugo returned to UA. "Monoma, what's the Class A monkey doing here?" he asked, quite annoyed with the redhead. "Izuku, I guess you have something planned for that, right?" he asked with Iri on his shoulders, not willing to leave the girl alone in the dorms. "Kirishima, in fact, we're just missing something to act," he bowed in front of the class, "and first of all, my sincere apologies for everything stupid I've done. Second," he handed a document to Izuku, who smiled slightly, "don't ask how, but I made the teachers at your old school tell the truth. This document only needs your signature and a brief summary of what Bakugo did." "Izuku, without a doubt, Kirishima Eijiro, you've outdone yourself," without hesitation and under Iri's curious gaze, he signed and wrote a few words, "He incited me to suicide. And done, here you go," he handed the paper to the redhead, who took it with hope. "Kirishima, thank you so much, Midoriya," he bowed and left the place. "Monoma, what the heck was that?" he asked, watching as his green-haired friend left Iri seated at her desk with some pencils and paper to keep her entertained. "Izuku, it's something I've been waiting for since I learned about Bakugo," he said while sitting in front of Iri, who was absorbed in drawing. "Juzo, and what is it?" He approached to take his seat next to Izuku. "Izuku, his downfall," he said somewhat mischievously, causing his friends to look at him with curiosity. "Kendo, what are you planning, Midoriya-san?" she asked uncertainly about her friend's intentions. "Izuku, nothing. I'm just going to talk about the past along with other people," he looked at Iri, who was focused on her drawings. "Beating him until he's barely alive can be fun for a while, but..." That's not enough for someone like Bakugo. He walked slowly to the front of the class. Yui, what exactly are you planning, Izuku? She asked, causing some incredulous looks and a strange feeling in the green-haired guy. What? We're friends, I also have the right to call him by his name. Izuku, he said, still shocked by that. As I was saying, it's not enough to beat his body. We have to destroy his mind, and the best way is by shattering his dreams. Kirishima will reveal Bakugo's extreme past, and everyone will doubt the idiot. He received a hit from Ibara, who looked at him angrily. Ibara, watch your language, there's a child present, she spoke angrily, pointing to Eri, who continued drawing calmly. Izuku, I'm sorry, Shiozaki, he said like a scolded child, and the plant-haired girl stroked his hair. Ibara, it's okay, Midoriya-san, you just got carried away in the moment. Their moment was interrupted by Reiko, who looked a bit annoyed. Only she could pet that broccoli head. Reiko, please continue, Midoriya-san, she smiled at the freckled guy, who nodded without understanding what was happening between his two friends. Izuku, well. Knowing what Bakugo did, his popularity will plummet to the point where Nezu will have no choice but to kick him out of UA. And as I have it planned, once it's known in general, no other academy will accept him. So, two things will happen, he spoke calmly despite impending danger. Kamakiri, and what are those? He spoke already excited about what his friend would say. Kendo, he either leaves the country or wants revenge, she spoke before Izuku finished, causing him to pout. Izuku, hey, that was mine, he complained childishly, and everyone looked at him with an anime-style sweat drop. Kendo, sorry, Midoriya-san, she said incredulously, watching as Izuku went to hug Yui. Izuku, the president is cruel, he muttered under his breath, and Yui just stroked his head.